So who loves an apple pie but does not like the fuss? You need to try an apple galette. This dessert is so rustic, simple, and delicious. So let's get started with that. So the first thing you're going to do when you're making an apple galette is to measure your flour. And you want to just spoon it into your measure cup, and you want a cup and a fourth of all-purpose flour. So there's 1 cup. Change my cup so I can be more precise and measure out a fourth of a cup. We'll come over here and measure over the container, the canister. Now we'll add that to the bowl. Next, 2 teaspoons of granulated sugar. 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now in goes 1 stick of cold butter cubed. So we're just going to put that into the bowl, and with a pastry cutter we're going to cut that in until it's a coarse crumb consistency. You could use, at this point, you could use a fork or even in a food processor. But I have this pastry cutter, which makes it really fast. Once we have this to a good crumb consistency, we're going to add ice cold water. And we're going to start off with about a little less than a fourth of a cup of ice cold water. The colder the better for your ingredients. Will make flakier crust. So now at this point I'm going to get my spoon back, add my water, and mix that in until it starts to come together to form a dough. The thing about the galettes, they're so easy. They're rustic. They don't have to be perfect. There's not a lot of fuss, and you can do it. It's easy. This is actually going to be on one of my cooking class recipes this year at school. So we're going to do just a few more drops of water. See if that comes together. So I added just a little bit more water. Then I'm going to work it with my hands as little as possible because your hands are hot. So you don't want to melt that butter, but you want it to work it enough to become a ball of dough. So now we're just going to work it till it sticks together, and then wrap it in plastic wrap, press it into a disc, form it into a disc, wrap it in plastic wrap, and let it rest in the refrigerator for about 30 minutes. If you want to do it a day ahead, you can always do this ahead of time. Into the refrigerator it goes for at least 30 minutes, and I'm going to clean up and get my apples ready. So you're going to need about 3 or 4 apples depending on the size of apples that you have. I'm going to start with 3. I think that's going to be plenty for this. Your pie crust is only going to be rolled out to like 12 inches, and then you're going to fold the edges over. So we're just going to peel these 3 apples, slice them, and then we'll go on with the rest of the ingredients for the pie filling. So we're going to slice these pretty thin so they can cook relatively fast. You don't want the apples not done when the crust is done. So I'm going to slice them pretty thin. To the apples, 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, and I'm using light brown sugar. 1½ teaspoons of cinnamon. 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. A pinch of salt that just helps bring out the flavor and the sweetness in the apples. 1 tablespoon of lemon juice. And you're just going to take a large spoon and combine all those ingredients. So you're going to set this aside and wait on your pie crust to be ready to roll out. I let my dough refrigerate for at least 30 minutes. My oven is preheated at 400 degrees. My apples are ready. And now I'm going to unwrap the dough and we're going to roll it out into about a 12-inch disc or a 12-inch round pie crust. So first I'm going to flour my surface with a little all-purpose flour. And make sure you flour your pastry roller. You don't want your dough to stick. I'm going to flour both sides of my dough just lightly. Put it in the center, and I'm going to go ahead and press it thinner if I can. And we're just going to roll it out. Turn it as you go so it stays round. You don't want an odd shape. And if you need to flip it, make sure everything's still floured and not sticking. That's important to try to keep it floured. You don't want your dough to stick to your surface. That's about 10 inches. We're going to go out a little bit further. And a good way to make sure you're not sticking, roll the dough up over your pastry roller. Make sure there's still flour underneath. And then continue to roll until you get about 12 inches. Okay, that looks great right there. Okay, if you want it round, go ahead and make it look pretty on the edges. Come around. But remember, this is a rustic pie and it does not have to be perfect. Like before, you want to roll the edges up over your pastry roller and then roll it over on top of itself. Place your pan in front of you. I think I'm changing my mind. I'm going to use a round pan. Okay, I'm going to use a pizza pan. And then I'm just going to unroll it on top of your pan. Okay, it's going to hang over a little bit now, but just a minute. We're going to arrange our apples in the center of your crust. And you can get fancy. You can come around and lay them all around, make it nice and neat. I'm just going to dump them in the middle. Remember, it's a rustic pie. I don't want it to be perfect. Now spread these apples out just a little bit. We don't want them too thick. Now I'm going to pull my crust and pleat it as you pull it over. So that you have a round crust and it's pleated, nice and pretty. Okay, so we're going to put an egg wash and some sugar on top. So I'm going to crack an egg into a bowl and just beat that up. And then we're going to brush that onto the crust. The outside of this crust all around. If it's a little thick, I'm going to add just a little bit of water. This is going to make the crust more of a golden brown. Okay. If you want it really fancy, sprinkle with coarse sugar. Who has coarse sugar in their kitchen? I don't. So I'm just going to sprinkle around with just some granulated sugar and pop this into a 400-degree oven for about 35 minutes. It's been 35 minutes and this looks beautiful. We're going to let it cool for just a few minutes and transfer it to something a little nicer to serve on. Then we'll have a bite of this apple galette. You can't get more simple than this.